Hello, this is Sean, back with another video for my channel 300 Baud, and today we're going to be taking a look at a box of Amiga stuff that I have located right here. So here I've got a box full of random items that I have collected over a 30-year period for the Amiga computer. And we can take a quick peek inside and you'll notice it's just full of just stuff. So I'm going to take a look. We're going to pull things out one at a time. Take a look at what we've got here. I think it'll be kind of interesting. So let me move the box to the side and we'll get started. So the first item I've got here to show from my box of Amiga stuff is a Amiga emulator for the Amiga 500 personal computer. This one I bought on eBay many years ago, and it was listed as non-functional. And it is non-functional. Now, I've looked these things up on the internet, and it says I believe these are not compatible with NTSC Amigas. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but when I do plug it in my Amiga 500, I'm getting a green screen, which would indicate that I have a memory fault. So I would think at a minimum the memory expansion should work on the Amiga 500, and then I should be able to switch over to the PC compatibility that this card offers. I personally find this thing very fascinating in that it can emulate a PC computer, because when you look at what the original PC computer had, the original IBM XT, to run, and then you look at what's on this computer, they've miniaturized this to an amazing level. So I would like to get this guy running sometime because I think it's pretty cool. So this is a Power PC board by KCS. So pretty neat card. I believe I should be able to get this thing running. It is running an NEC. I guess it would be a 288 compatible card. And you can see we've got our memory through here. So I suspect if anything's wrong with this card, it's probably one of these memory chips is probably defective. But I should be able to get this thing up and running. So that's the first item I've got in my box of Amiga stuff. Next thing I've got is just an Amiga 500 power supply. I always hated these power supplies because I can't stand the cables coming out the front and the back of the strip. Actually, you can see this one's broken, and we've got the switch on the side over here. I believe this one's probably non-functional, but it should be a pretty easy fix to get it working. This would work on the Amiga 500. It also works, I believe, on the Amiga 600 and 1200 computers because they use the same connector. This one actually is a little bit beefier than what was shipped with the Amiga 1200 from what I understand. So if it's a good working power supply, it's a good supply for the Amiga 1200 because you can add a couple of things and not worry about overstressing the power supply. So the next item I've got in my box of Amiga stuff is a Chroma Key Plus. I've used this thing one time. Looks like you can run in, like, let's see here. I could run into video source and a Chroma Key input. I honestly don't know. I have no idea how to use this. This would be something that you would use if you had a video toaster set up. But again, I have no idea how to use this. I don't know what it does, but it does have a pretty cool slider. I did hook it up to my Amiga 2000 at one time when I had a video toaster card in it, and I was able to kind of fade in and fade out of a screen, but beyond that, I have no clue. So that'll be something to play with in the future. Next item I've got here is an Amiga 2000 floppy disk. I believe this one's working. This is a China style floppy drive. These are like 880K. Pretty rare item now. Really difficult to find good working floppy disks. So definitely a keeper, something I can use. I know I had some other ones in the past, and I actually repaired one of the drives. Basically, just took it apart, cleaned it. And then, like a numbhead, I had it sitting in the Amiga 2000. It slipped and slipped onto the chassis of the computer and grounded out the circuit board and fried it. So this one I believe is in good working condition, but don't really need it right now. So it just sits in the box of Amiga stuff. Next item I've got in my box of Amiga stuff is a Rock Gen Plus. This is actually a pretty neat device. You can see the sticker has slipped down. But what this allows you to do is, actually this is the device I was using earlier with my Amiga 2000, where I could turn up the video signal on the Amiga or turn up the video signal that's coming in and blend the two. Very cool little device, very simple little hookup. Looks like we've got ourselves a key in, a video through, a video out, and our RGB through. So I can plug this guy right straight into the back of the Amiga computer. I can run this out to my monitor. I can run a video source in. I can blend the two, video in, and then I can go video out, so I can record it on the video cassette or something like that. Very simple, very, very easy. Very, very cool little box. This has a little heft to it too. So maybe someday we'll take it apart, see what's inside of it. But again, that's nice little... Oh, as I was pulling out the Rock Gen Plus, I also pulled out a Amiga RGB video cable. So this just plugs into the back of the Amiga computer, and this plugs into your monitor. You'll notice that it doesn't have very many pins going through. This is a really nice cable, but I believe it takes out like the sync on green signals, things like that. So if you're trying to like use this to hook up a VGA monitor, doesn't work really well. So kind of a shame, but works great with the Commodore series of monitors. So that's one of my cables. Next thing I'll bring out is my collection of SCSI connectors for internal SCSI connection. I've got some basic ones, like I've got something here. Actually, it looks like I've got some kind of a plug-in here. So this allows me to plug in the SCSI controller into another SCSI device, and then I can like got some kind of female connector here, so I can plug in like an extension cable if I want to, extend it out a little bit. There's one of them, and here we've got another SCSI cable. Looks like this one plugs into the SCSI controller, and then I've got four connections, SCSI connections on that one. And then here's a very basic SCSI connection, so I can plug into my SCSI controller, plug into one SCSI device, so it's just one device. And then I've got this ridiculous one here, where I can plug this guy. Oops, this is another one. This is just a little bit longer. Got just plug in one device. And this guy here, which allows me to plug in one SCSI connection, and it looks like I've got 4 devices, but much, much longer. So this would be really helpful if you had like a tower system. Desktop computer, probably don't need to use that. One time I had quite a few SCSI connections. I used to run SCSI drives. I had SCSI CD-ROMs, CD burners, things like that. So it was nice to have those SCSI connectors. Next thing out of the box, I've got one of these Commodore adapters that allows you to go from the Commodore RGB video output to a more like a VGA standard. And then I've got the same thing but without the case. Now, I've never gotten these things to work with any monitors, and typically it's because the Amiga outputs a 15 kilohertz signal. Most of your VGA monitors are going to be expecting like a 31 kilohertz signal, so they generally don't work. Now, maybe if you had a multi-sync monitor, it would work. But again, I think you're going to run into issues with the sync signal being strained out. So I'm not sure. Don't know if these actually are useful or not, but I have them. Continuing on the conversation about SCSI, these are my SCSI connectors for connecting external devices. So pretty useful if you want to run external CD-ROMs, external hard drives, things like that. So like these here are what you typically find on a SCSI 2 device. You know, if I was going from, say, an external CD-ROM, an external hard drive, maybe this would be useful. But on the Amiga, you're probably going to do something more like this, where you have a 25-pin SCSI connection going to the SCSI controller external, and then to, say, a SCSI 2 device, like so. You may also find on some of the older hardware, you might use something more in the lines like this guy. Let me see if I can get it untangled. So your standard 25-pin SCSI connection to an old-fashioned, I don't even know what this is called, it's like a Centronics cable or something, but this would be found on a lot of SCSI 1 devices. I know that some of the older Apple hardware had similar connectors. Typically on the Amiga you'd find 25-pin connector like that, and then you could go to something like this with an older CD-ROM, older hard drive connection, whatever. See what else I got here. Same thing. Got the, oh, actually this is I'm not sure if this is a SCSI connector or if this is like a printer connection cable. I'm not sure about this one. Have to do a little checking, but looks like we got a couple of 25-pin connectors. This is not SCSI. This is probably for connecting a printer. Here we've got another SCSI cable. This one would go from your SCSI controller to like a SCSI 2 device. And I've got another, and actually this one I believe may have been, yeah, this is an Apple cable. And this again, you go from your SCSI controller to a SCSI 1 device. Originally, the original Apple SCSI CD-ROM control CD-ROMs had basically this interface on the back of them. So this is what you'd find on an Apple computer. It would also work with an Amiga. It's the same, SCSI standard, so it works just fine. And I've got one more SCSI 2 controller here. So I don't know why I have so many of these SCSI controllers. These cables used to be extremely expensive. You'd probably spend $25 or more back in the 90s to buy this equipment. What is nice is it's a very good quality cable, very heavy, hefty, good quality stuff. So the next thing I've got in my big box of Amiga stuff is a Commodore mouse. This was packaged with an Amiga 4000 computer. You can actually see it's, this one here is interesting because it's a Commodore labeled mouse, but it says made in China. You don't see too much Commodore stuff with the label made in China because we hadn't exported most of the manufacturing to China back in the 90s. Commodore went out of business sometime around 93, 94. So I'm kind of surprised to see I have a Chinese-made Commodore mouse. Next group of mice I've got would be something that came with, say, either the Amiga 500 or the Amiga 2000 computer. I've got several of them here. You can see they've got the Commodore logos right on the connector where it plugs into the computer. If I can get it to focus for you, you can see, there we go. There's a nice little Commodore logo. All three of them have the Commodore logo. On the bottom, let's take a look at this. I've got one of them here that's made in Malaysia. And I've got another one that's also made in Malaysia. And then I've got one of them here that isn't labeled at all. It's actually peeling up where the little slippery surface here is. It just has a serial number. So my guess is this mouse may have actually been made in the USA. That's my little collection of Amiga mice. I used to have a ton of these things. I actually sold a bunch of them on eBay 10 years ago or so when they were worth practically nothing. Now I imagine Amiga mouse is worth quite a bit of money. Here's another little interesting mouse. I bought this one new a few years ago when there were still Amiga stuff available online. We could buy it new. This one's kind of interesting because it's a trackball. It has a pretty nice movement, you know, if I was to use it to control with a thumb. So you'd actually want to pick this guy up, and then you got your buttons here. It's kind of interesting. I got the left and right mouse buttons, but also center. Amigas, I don't believe, use the center mouse button for anything. So this mouse would be repurposed for a lot of different uses. And we can see at the bottom here, it really is not descript at all. I don't remember what they labeled or what they branded these things as for the Amiga, but I did see, like in Amiga World magazine, they were advertised quite a bit. I do have the original case that this went into. When I originally bought it, the first one I got didn't work at all. And I contacted the vendor and said, hey, this thing doesn't work. So they just sent me another one. So I had two of them. I think I tossed the first one that didn't work because it just really didn't work at all. Next thing in my box of Amiga stuff is one of the Amiga 520. This converts a RF out to, the Amiga RGB to a RF signal, and you can actually change the channel for your television. This is horrible. This is really bad. And then you also have the audio in and the video out. So like if you wanted the Amiga to tune in to RF, you'd have to actually run your audio outputs from your Amiga into the audio input here. You'd lose your stereo capability. You just get mono coming out on channel 3 or 4. What I used this for originally was the video output. So I'd run my audio cables out to a stereo, and then I ran this to the back of a standard TV that had the video output. It gave you a really fuzzy signal. It really is poor quality, but this is something that Commodore had come out with early in the day with the Amiga 500. As a matter of fact, I think if you bought an Amiga 500, you got this with the Amiga 500 computer so that you could plug it into a standard television, which was kind of nice, but again, it gave you a really fuzzy signal, so not so great. It would have been really nice if they would have ditched like this RF output and had put a SVGA output on it, because it's, at that time, not SVGA, but SVO output at the time, because they did have it. So that would have worked a lot nicer than having a composite video output. I've also got some SCSI terminators here. There's one of them. Here's another SCSI terminator. This is for an internal termination. Got another guy here for the 25-pin termination here. Probably have some more in the box. Let's see here. This is kind of an interesting thing. This is a RS-232 gender changer. So you would use this to like create a null modem cable. That way you could like connect two computers at the same time in game. Because back in the day we didn't have the internet, so this is how you would play multiplayer games. But you need two computers, two controllers, two mice, two monitors. Then you need to run your gender changer, run them to the, I believe it was the serial ports, and connect them in. Actually, it may have been parallel port. I don't remember, but there you go. There's an RS-232 gender bender, and this I actually had an extra one of these, and this is I traded one of these guys for the Amiga 500 that I featured in one of my earlier videos. So pretty good deal, one of these guys for a computer. Why not? Next thing in my box of Amiga stuff, I've got a cover for the 5¼ inch drive bay on the Amiga 4000. So I still have the Amiga 4000. When I get over 100 subscribers, I'll feature my Amiga 4000. This is a bezel for a Amiga 2000 floppy drive. Very yellowed, ridiculously yellowed. You can kind of see like this side looks a little bit different than this side, but I've never seen anything yellowed to that level. And then I have the a drive cover. I'm not sure. This one, I'm not sure what computer this came from, but it's the exact same color as the Amiga 4000. Probably from the top 3½ inch bay, and then this guy here went into, I believe, the bottom 3½ inch bay, but I'm not positive on that. I will pull out my Amiga 4000 sometime and feature that in the video, and we can take a look at it. I also have the cover that went over the expansion port on the Amiga 1200. I used it was an 030 accelerator card for the Amiga 1200, and it had a SCSI output, and you ran your SCSI port connector to the external port on the expansion port on the Amiga 1200. So that also goes to the Amiga computer. Next group of stuff for the Amiga are more video connectors to go from the Amiga RGB on the back to the Amiga monitors. Don't need 3. If I knew somebody who desperately needed one, I would probably supply it to them. next thing I've got here, all wrapped up. Let's take a look. Oh, here we go. This guy is a Amiga mouse, but you'll notice the connector is a little bit different on the end. That's because this Amiga mouse was specifically designed for the Amiga 1000. So the mouse plugs into the side of the computer. That keeps the cable tucked in nice and tight and actually feeds it forward towards the user. So this is for the Amiga 1000. Again, this is another computer I have in my collection, so I'll feature that at a later time on my channel when it grows a little bit. Next thing in my collection of Amiga stuff in my Amiga is another Amiga mouse, but this one's a little special. This is actually for the Amiga 3000. So it's, boy, I can't remember what the nickname for this thing was, but it's a kind of an ugly little sucker. But at the same time, it's kind of nice because you can rest your palm on it and you reach down and your buttons are down lower. So it's a very unique design. I believe only come with the Amiga 3000, nothing else. So we can see here, boy, this one was made in '92, made in Japan, so that's kind of cool. I've got the serial number here. I don't know if one of these is one of these numbers is probably the model number, but I'm not exactly sure. I know I bought this from Software Hut. I think I paid something like 10 to 20 bucks for it. It was kind of cool. When I bought it at the time from Software Hut, they were still in business. Very popular reseller for Commodore products. They were actually advertising an IBM keyboard that was nothing but the Control-Alt-Delete keys. So kind of a joke, a little bit funny. But that's my Amiga 3000 mouse. Next item in my box of Amiga stuff. Let's take a look at what I got here. Oh yeah. So I've got myself another Amiga trackball. I use the heck out of these things. These are actually pretty nice trackballs. The ball, yeah, you know, you can't spin it like you'd play Missile Command because it has a tendency to go diagonally. But it's not too bad. It catches a little bit, but not too bad. Again, on the Amiga, you're only going to use the left-right mouse button. You're never going to use the center mouse button. I do have another one of these. It looks exactly the same as this, except it has 2 mouse buttons and not 3, which is kind of nice. But this one's kind of unique in that it has the Amiga and Atari controller. I have a Atari 520 ST, the original Atari 520 ST in my collection. Currently, I don't have a power supply to even connect it, but it's in beautiful condition, and I would like to get that one going, and I will feature that in my channel at a future date. But again, I have no idea what the branding is on this. I do have the model number. I have one of them hooked up on my Amiga 500 right now. I have this guy here, which I used for a while and then put away, and I also have another one, I think it's called like True Ducks or something like that, new in the box. So yeah, nice little controller here. Kind of preserves your mice, but I happen to like trackballs, so pretty happy with that. Now here's another interesting little cable for the Amiga. This is specifically for the keyboard connection on an Amiga 1000 computer. They're the same connection as what you'd find on a standard telephone, but it's slightly wired a little bit differently. So I have this. This is for my original Amiga 1000. Again, I'll feature that at a later date. With my Amiga 1000, I got this Amiga disk drive. Now, one thing that's interesting about the Amiga 1000 and like the peripherals, the Amiga disk drive, is all you've got is the Amiga checkmark. There is no Commodore logos on it. Let's see what it's got on the bottom. So you can see here, it's the Amiga 1010 3.5-inch disk drive. This one's a little bit different because it has a pass-through for a floppy, so you can plug this into the Amiga 1000 computer, and then you can plug another one in, so you can get 2 floppies running at the same time, which is kind of cool because the Amigas like to click. You go click, click, click. through the drives. Click, click, click. But it is a large beast. I believe it still works. Should be still in good working condition. But yeah, it's my Amiga 1010 disk drive. This disk drive is more like what you'd find with the Amiga 500. That's when the Amiga really started to take off, when it became much, much more popular. So we can see we got the Amiga scripting here, and we got the Commodore chicken head logo over here. They actually ditched the Amiga checkmark, which is kind of a shame. It looks like this one is the Amiga 1011 3.5-inch disk drive. Commodore actually made a disk drive for the Amiga that instead of 3.5, it was a 5.25-inch disk drive. I unfortunately don't have one of those, but that was specifically set up for IBM emulation and also just reading IBM files, because at the time you'd find 3.5-inch disk drives on the Amiga computer and the Macintosh computer, but on the PC they pretty much ran 5.25-inch discs for several years after that. So pretty nice little disk drive. It's 880 kilobyte disk drive. You'll notice this one does not have a pass-through, so on the Amiga 500 you would have the internal drive and this one external drive, and that was it. And you'll notice it's quite a bit smaller than the original Amiga 1010. And I just kind of collected these things over the years, so I have my second Amiga 1010 disk drive. This one was made in 1990. And I believe it works as well. It's a little bit dirty, a little bit more yellow than the first one, but it's nice to have the spares. Got some other little connector here. Or little cover here. I have no idea what this goes to. Here I've got a CD-ROM caddy. So back in the early days when they first came out CD-ROMs, you had to take this caddy and you would load your CD-ROMs into the caddy. And let me see if I can figure out how to open this guy. So you had to push these things open. There we go. So you'd open this up, you'd put your CD inside, and then you would close it. And your CD-ROMs back in the day had a larger, they didn't have a tray, but you'd actually push this into a larger hole, and that's how it would read. But it would protect your CD-ROM so it wouldn't get scratched or anything like that. I only have the one. I would use this with my Commodore CD-TV, another one of my Amigas in my collection, and I'll feature that at a later date. So here we got just a box, but what's inside of it is completely different. What I've got here is a MIDI master for the Amiga 500 and 2000 computers. This will work with any Amiga. But what it does is it plugs into, I believe, probably your parallel port, and then it gives you several MIDI. So you have your MIDI in, your MIDI through, MIDI 1 out, MIDI 2, and MIDI 3. So that would allow you to connect MIDI instruments to the Amiga computer. The Atari ST had MIDI ports built in. On something like the Amiga, you'd have to actually add, buy a box like this to be able to do the same thing. On the PC, I believe the sound cards oftentimes had MIDI ports or something like that. But yeah, you would connect your MIDI ports in that way. But the Atari ST had the MIDI built right onto the computer. And here I've got another cover. This is for the Amiga 2000, so it just bolts right onto the front faceplate of the Amiga 2000. But when you install something like a CD-ROM, you take this off. So someplace I have an Amiga 2000 with a CD-ROM attached to it. And I've got another one of these little covers, exactly the same as the first one. It probably goes to an Amiga 1200. Not exactly sure, but there we go. Got another one. And the last item in my box of Amiga stuff is a power supply for an Amiga 2000 computer. This is an extra that I've got here. So yeah, we've got one thing I found with the Amiga 2000 when I was doing my video with the Blizzard expansion was I had a real shortage of power plugs. But I noticed with this one when I was playing around with it a little bit earlier is that I've got like some kind of like extra cables attached to it, so this would give me a few more connections, which would be pretty valuable on the Amiga 2000 because there really weren't enough power connections for me to do what I needed. So I've got my standard power Molex type connectors here, and down here, these connectors here would be used with your floppy drives. We can see that this was made by Litton Electronics Co. in Taiwan. Let's see here. I don't know how many watts this thing is. Oh, 200 watt power supply. So not a very powerful power supply. But for back in the day, it was actually adequate. You could run the Amiga toaster card, no problem with this, or a video card or something like that. Wouldn't be an issue. But I think if you got like a toaster and you were to hook up, say, a flyer and start hooking in CD-ROMs and internal CD-ROM and hard drives, SCSI hard drives, you'd run into problems really quick. So I know back in the day there was a company, I think they were called Bigfoot. You could replace this power supply with a heavier duty power supply and then be able to drive more devices. But for standard Amiga 2000, this works fine. So that is a look at all of my stuff that came out of the box of Amiga things, just random items. Kind of fun, you know. A lot of these things I haven't used in a long time. Some of them I used once, some of them I didn't use at all. Most of them I actually used a little bit, but I do know, like the Amiga 3000 mouse, I never used that at all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's all I've got for now, but I hope you'll be joining me again for future videos. It'd be very helpful if you'd subscribe to my channel. This is a growing channel. It's a small channel, but growing. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you, and goodbye.